Yay! My favorite. She's here. Dr. Christina Greer. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really excited to see you. I'm so happy you're here. Participate, talking to you, my hearing.
Hold on, you're going in and out. Give me 2 seconds. I'm trying to figure out, is that you or is that me?
An echo. Stand by. That's that was us live while we were live. I'm new to this. Oh, what a nightmare. That was a cool cup. Hold that cup back up. Ooh.
I have a collection of 7. They come out every year. This is 1971.
Look at you.
This is the first purchase I made when I moved to Brooklyn and I was like getting a divorce and I was like, I need to save money. And there are these mugs that I've always wanted because my friend's husband's an architect and they like come out once a year. And someone was selling like a random half of a hodgepodge set. And they're like ridiculously expensive for a mug. But it was 7 of them, ranging from like 71 to like 1981. And I got them. And it represents like me being like, you know what, you got this. You can spend your money however you want to spend your money and not feel guilty about it.
Oh, I love that.
So it makes me very happy.
Wonderful story. I'm glad I asked about that mug. There it is again. Now we know its whole story. The whole hand is decorated. It rings. She's got a new man.
Really I'm in a Mr. T phase.
That would be more necklaces, though. You'd need a lot more weight.
But, you know, he had like the jewelry and I have 2 necklaces, just my token, right? This is my token here. And this is a little piece of amber I got in Paris with my nieces a few years ago. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us on the YouTube Live looking together. You must be well rested or something.
I'm getting there. My body's doing the like warning shots. Like, hey, you don't rest soon, we're gonna shut it down.
We always do a little bit of nature talk, and so I just want to know what this Memorial Day, post Memorial Day, June. What do you got? What's a thing?
So yesterday I saw a blue jay. I've totally turned into crazy bird lady where I'm like, I got off the subway. I'm in Brooklyn. I see a bird. Lately, birds have just been coming up to me like I'm Snow White, like just like 2-3 feet away, just like, hey, what's up? And I can like, I'm like, what's going on? Like they don't fly away. I can like talk to them. So I see this blue jay out of the corner of my eye, and I just stop and I follow him. And he's in a tree and he's low in a tree, which for blue jays, you know, they usually are like higher up. And so he's clear as day. He's just a blue jay. This is like my grandfather comes to me in the form of a blue jay. So there are these 2 people, older black people, sitting on a bench. I'm like, it's a blue jay. Look up. And so like I've gotten better at like helping people see where it is. So it's like, look at this tree, 3 o'clock. You know, like this branch, whatever. So the blue jay waits for us to see him and doesn't fly away. And he like sort of turns so they can see that he's blue. And I was like, it's a blue jay. And they're like, oh wow, it's a blue jay. And the guy's like, go catch it. Like New York is crazy.
I mean, it's that bird's a bit of a contradiction in terms of it's beautiful, but it's an asshole and it makes an ugly noise.
Well, I don't know. Ugly noise. That's interpretation. But yes, it's known to be their jerk. And like everyone's like, your grandfather, how does, you know, and I was like, my grandfather was definitely his own man. So he was very bold with what he said and to whom he said things. And so the blue jay is very apropos of my grandpa.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, but I've just been trying to get out and about nature as much as possible. But like I've been seeing all these catbirds just keep coming up to me.
I just have this image of all these different species of birds landing on you, and then they're singing, and you're twirling, and
they haven't done that yet, but they're getting really close. Like a mourning dove came to my window 4 days in a row and just sat on my AC unit, and I was like, you know, normally when you get close, they fly away. So I could put my nose right on the window. And I was like, what are you doing here? And this mourning dove was just staring at me.
It's like, wonderful. Okay. I love all of that. Anything else happen this time of year for you? Do you look forward to anything in June?
Well, I ran to Paris for a few days to see an art exhibit that I really wanted to see. And I saw it and it was worth it. And I'm very proud of myself. And, you know, I go to Europe for the summer. So
that's right. You're there teaching in London?
Yeah. So I leave in July, but I'm actually going to run to Lisbon on Sunday. I'm taking my niece for Camp Sissy Tonka 2025.
Camp Sissy Tonka is when Chrissy, Aunt Chrissy, what does she call you? Takes her niece.
Everyone calls me Sissy because I'm their mother's sister.
Right. On a trip. And you're such a wonderful aunt. And this is going to be another great summer for you in Europe. And
so yeah, my youngest niece and I are going to Camp Sissy Tonka, Lisbon edition.
and of course, Lisbon, you have good friends in Lisbon. What are you hearing in your travels as of recent? Do you hear anybody talking about America?
I mean, they're just like, what are you guys doing? Like, yikes. I mean, that's just like, you all look like
Do you
you're
say we're
in
making it
shambles.
healthy again? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, we're eating burgers and fries.
My,
No, I mean, it's just like, listen, it's, I think I'm, as an American politics professor, I'm explaining to them, it's like the reality of America, like we've read it in books, like it's never been this perfect place. It's never been this welcoming and equitable place. We just sort of export that reputation. But now we're seeing, full stop, like who we really are and have been. And I was like, not everyone's terrible, but like, let's be clear. We're being governed by some of the cruelest people we've seen in a very long time. And they're like, yeah, why are they like, who wants an unhealthy, uneducated, unemployed populace? It's like, and they're like, and why are people voting for it? It's like, right. Why are people signing up to sort of make everyone else's lives, including their own, terrible?
one of the big questions I wanted to ask you is how we are to frame this current form of white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
Country's always been, I think most people watching, hopefully they understand the history of this country and race. We don't have to really, but where recap it. But where are we now in that it's 2025 and all of these whites in the federal government are doing everything they can in the most overt ways to erase history and create and roll back everything from the civil rights era, and then create current classrooms that teach a different present, past, and future without regard for, and it's just all the overt, like the constant, like they're thinking about taking Harriet Tubman's name off a naval vessel, and they're
and Harvey Milk.
They're
and Frederick Douglass.
Much worse than that. People don't know about this. I'm sure you have thoughts on it. What they're doing to African American museums, not only in Washington, and trying to erase things and rearrange things, and I don't know, put in some new displays.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about, like, what's this stage that we're at?
Well, it's called America Stage. It's just been excavated. No, I mean, but like it was underground, but it was never gone. I mean, like, again, reminder, my parents went to segregated schools. Like, this is not distant past, right? But also for like Black people like me, my parents knew that even the fanciest of fancy schools that they paid a lot of money to send me to weren't educating me on the real history of America. So like we read our own books at home. Like, it's still incumbent upon families to make sure that this history isn't lost, because, as great as my schools were, they weren't teaching anything about Black people. I mean, this is why I wrote the book about Fannie Lou Hamer. Where am I? Fannie Lou Hamer and Barbara Jordan, right? And to make sure that Stacey Abrams isn't erased from history. Like, most people don't know who Fannie Lou Hamer and Barbara Jordan are, which is ridiculous because they're some of the greatest American patriots. But I mean, I also think we need to remember, it's like, this is the way that this moment feels a little different, is that you don't have to be white to uphold white supremacy. Before it was just whites. Now you have a lot of non-whites, not a lot, but enough, who are just like, well, I want to be in the club. So you have like your Kash Patels and your Vivek Ramaswamys, and JD Vance's wife Ucha.
Could you say the same for gender with women upholding?
Of course, women uphold patriarchy. White women have been the keepers of patriarchy.
Linda McMahon was in there doing a
yeah. So it's like now you have to sort of watch your back in a lot of different ways, because you have people who want sort of this proximity to power. And so they're willing to do things to other people. And this is where Donald Trump made that slight inroads with African Americans. Not huge. Black men are still the second greatest keepers of democracy in the Democratic Party, only behind Black women. And everybody else is a distant third, fourth, fifth, sixth. But, he made slight inroads because for people who feel like they're party captured, right? Sort of like trapped in one party and they want to have some sort of diversity. It's like, for some people who are falling on hard times, it is an attractive message to say, well, it's like, well, you would have had that job if it weren't for, this new immigrant, which is like,
oh yeah,
it's ridiculous. So you would have had that job if the government didn't just cancel all these jobs to give themselves more tax breaks, to pay for all their things. But like, you can start to frame it in those particular ways. You can put your name on a check that is from the government that Joe Biden gave you, that everyone else is giving you in the past. But if you give, the president his crayon and magic markers and he puts his name on it, then you think that it's him specifically and his policies. Right. The thing that I can't understand, Pete, and I'm still, talking to all my smart political science friends, Joe Biden rescued the economy in a lot of ways, which is what Democrats do. Democratic presidents come in and pull us out of the crevasse that Republicans have put us in economically because they give tax breaks to the rich. So the Democrats have to come in and like rebuild the social safety net and like pull it out. And then Republicans get back in power and tank it again. I mean, literally economic models show that straight up.
In our lifetime with Clinton, then certainly in Obama and Biden.
All of it, Reagan, like you name it. But here's the thing. I'm like, Donald Trump, you could have just held on to Joe Biden's successes and just put your name on it like you love to do and just been like, it's mine. I did it. And your followers would have believed that. And the gas prices would have gone down and the egg prices that were starting to go down and all these. But now it's like gas is up in the summertime. Parks are closed. Eggs are up. Like everything is up. And it's just like, you took something that was working and you broke it like every other company you've ever taken. So like, why are we surprised? But I just thought for his own sort of legacy, he would want that, but his own ego wouldn't allow it.
And his own ego wouldn't allow it. That's what I was going to say, because he did do more of that in the first term, continuing with what Obama had done and kind of let it go and put his name on it as things you said. But this time his ego, it's working out perfectly too for him, because what he does is he breaks all these deals and with countries and companies and schools, and then has each one of those countries, companies, schools have to come to him to remake usually a worse deal, and he loses capital as a result. But his whole thing is they have to kiss the ring because of his ego. That's my analysis, is why he done what he's done and broken everything that he could have just left and gotten more credit and more success for.
Right. But I mean, he has this thing where he creates a problem. He creates hubbubaloo about like something's working. He breaks it, just as you said. He creates this problem. He doesn't fix it. There's some sort of political theater. And then he says, I miraculously fixed it. It's not fixed.
Yeah.
And then we just move on to the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, like the whole like TikTok ban. It's like you created this situation and then you saved TikTok. But it's like, but you're the one who said you wanted to cancel TikTok. Like, make it make sense. It doesn't need to make sense because his supporters don't need him to make sense. They just need him to say immigrants are bad. You know, they are all the horrible things that he has said about hardworking immigrants. And then you have, you know, candidates. This is why I can't stand Andrew Yang. Like, then you have candidates who are talking, like candidates of color, who's just like, well, my parents are good immigrants. I'm like, there's no such thing. Like an immigrant who cleans the toilet and an immigrant who works at IBM, there's no difference in my mind. Both of them are coming here.
The difference would, some people would say, is the ones who follow the rules and the ones who don't, in terms of coming in and
ask your grandparents and great grandparents who follow these rules, right? Because everyone's like, they should speak English. And it's like, did your great grandparents speak English when they came from Italy and Ireland? No, they didn't.
Well, to be fair, even if that were true, the rules are different. There's way more. There's not as many pathways to citizenship, much less working and education visas. And now they're trying to pull every ladder up. So it's like, I mean, I don't really give a shit about this whole immigration issue. It's not something I think about. I think it's all preposterous. I think that human beings are going to try to find ways to succeed in life. And that simply leads to migration. Like, you could go back to the most primitive humans. You're going to, if it's cold, you're going to fucking build a tent. And if you're hungry, you're going to kill whatever you got to kill. Like, it's just the most human thing in the world. And we're Americans. We just don't understand it because we don't have to leave our fucking towns.
Well, I mean, also, we always said,
you didn't like my rant?
I love the rant, but it's like we've said that like we're a nation of immigrants, but we're not. I mean, like, we've always fought it. And that's why we have like 4 different types of Chinese exclusion acts. I think what worries me, and this is not new. Again, none of this is new. So that's why I'm not like hysterical.
Right.
It's like, you know, you have people who came here undocumented or documented, whatever, and they like quote unquote made it. And just as you said, they want to pull up the ladder. So this is why, you know, everyone's like, I don't understand why Latinos in Texas and Arizona are, you know, Republicans. It's like, right, because they're like, I'm in the club and I don't want other people who look like me in the club. I mean, we saw this with like Black people in Harlem, you know, from the Great Migration. We saw this with like older Jews during the time of, you know, sort of World War I and II, when all these newer Jews were coming. They're like, ugh, they're not like me. So, I mean, like, we've seen this group after group. Sure. Asian Americans. I mean, like, you name it, we can claim it. So sadly, history repeats itself, or it doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. But here we are.
I do feel like I'm almost prepped to, like, when I talk to you, certainly about America and race, just to be super broad, it's kind of an eye roll. And then it's like, you think this is new? There's nothing new. So I'm going to try. So, and
did you not read my New York Times op-ed?
No, listen, I'm not saying you're wrong or that's wrong. I'm saying I'm ignorant, and that's why I ask the questions. And you're not wrong to give the answers the way you do. You're always right about it. I just do feel like I want to stump you at some point, and here I go. I'm sure you'll say that's not new, but it seems kind of new.
Uh-huh.
Trump brought in the black South African president, who smartly brought 3 white billionaire golfers with him, and said that he was committing white genocide. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's new.
No, it's not. White people have always been sort of paranoid about white genocide, even during the time of slavery.
No, not the white genocide thing. That's not new. It's new that the president is using the phrase overtly and bringing it in and claiming it's a thing where it's not. That's not new.
But his whole campaign has been essentially implicitly and explicitly that like all these immigrants are creating a white genocide in our society. That's why they're raping our women. And we have all this like, miscegenation, as he would, if he knew the word, he'd use that. But like the undercurrent is there are not enough white people in this country. And it's because the great replacement theory that they all believe in, these white South Africans, that he surrounds himself with. And they believe that, it's like white people are under attack. And that's why we have to sort of protect ourselves. This is why we have to ban abortion. So like white women can make sure that, they have access. They don't have access to it. They don't care about everybody else. It's like white women have to be able to produce kids. This is why they want that trad wife nonsense. This is why they're going to start paying women to have more and more kids. They're going to pay black women and Latino women. They're going to pay white women to start producing more kids. They want it to be like old school days where white women have 6, 7, 8 kids, stay at home, because who can pay for, babysitters and schools for all these kids? The white man goes to work, and like, that's that. But, all the other groups, it's like, if we just starve them to death, realistically, we'll sort of push them out. And the brown ones, we can just deport, even if they are U.S. citizens. So like at a certain point in time, this will turn into South Africa, where you're going to have to show your papers. And then they can deem whether or not those papers are real or fake.
Make it harder for brown people to get in. Send the current brown people out. Ship in some new white people. Yeah. And now, I have to do my live read. White folks, you got to get out there and reproduce with like-minded white folks, because otherwise the olden times will never return.
But here's the thing. How we've set it up in America is only white people can make white people. Only white women can make white people. This is why like white women are such an interesting study, because they are the keepers of patriarchy, because they know that this whole operation doesn't work without them. So they'll only be abused, but so much. And this is where black women and like the feminist arguments get dicey, because we know that we're allies only to a point. But like they're a protected class and we're not, because they're the only ones that can make white men. So we can never be equal as far as like in the struggle together, because at the end of the day, they can always cut bait, because it's like you will always be protected in a white supremacist patriarchal society.
You should just do a show where you're the host and there's just white women asking you questions, and you just make
that usually ends in tears, but
that's
there
fine.
We are.
That's fine. Hey, it'll be highly rated.
And I'm immune to tears.
I know. There's not enough. Like, how about a trough, a river?
No. Because the thing is, it's like, don't forget, I've gone to school with white people my whole life, and I've seen how tears have been weaponized against me when we're having like good faith arguments or debates.
I understand that they don't make you feel the kind of empathy. It makes you feel kind of anger. So a visual.
Well, it's a weapon. It's a weapon against me, because whatever I'm saying is now invalidated because they have tears.
Show us the face.
And it's happened with me and white men too, by the way. It's like 2 years ago, I went through something at Fordham with this man boohoo crying. And I was like, really? And we had to go through, it was like 3 months of like nonsense. Like I'm still furious about it. And the crazy thing is, the question that I asked that brought on his like faux tears still never got answered.
Does that it makes me feel insecure sometimes in my friendship with you, because if I want to complain about the setbacks and obstacles of my life, I feel like it's kind of like
we're friends.
I
have empathy, but like if we're debating something and you all of a sudden just start using tears because you're losing the debate,
I see.
Then it's like,
well, yeah, that's never going to happen in my.
Or if I ask you a real question and you don't want to answer it, so it's like, I feel attacked. It's like, it's just a question. Like that's the thing that is so infuriating. And black women in the workplace, we get this all the time. It's like, you're so angry and you yelled at me. It's like, I have never raised my voice above this level in the workplace, not once ever.
Really?
Never.
Really? How do you do that? What do
Because this alone is like, I'm so scared.
Right.
I was just, how? I'm 5'6".
That's a 2.
Like, I mean, and my parents aren't yellers. I've never been in a family of yellers. And I know that in a workplace, if I yell, it's going to be nuclear. And all of a sudden,
What
people are going
about-
to feel threatened. You're already threatened because I'm just asking you a question that you aren't prepared to answer. And all of a sudden, the crocodile tears come. And it's like, I just felt so scared. And I mean, this whole situation from 2 years ago, I mean, this grown ass 6 foot something white man was like, I was just like so upset and so scared. And I was like, are you even kidding me? Tears.
About what?
I asked a process question in a committee meeting that he should have known the answer to, and he didn't. And all of a sudden it was like, I demand an apology and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, you're not going to get it. 1 and 2. But like all these other sort of white folks sort of initially jumped on the bandwagon to support him. And then a lot of other people jumped on the bandwagon to support me. And we all like resigned from this committee en masse.
Oh, wow. I never.
And I was like, and the crazy thing is he kicked it up the food chain. So it turns into a whole thing. But the crazy thing is, after like months, I mean, this is like back and forth, back and forth. And I was like, the wild thing is the original question that I asked still hasn't been answered because we had to go through all of his emotions and his tears and how he felt threatened and everything else. But never once have we still addressed the question of what is the process question that I asked. I was like, so I'm just going to put that out there. Still haven't talked about it. So this is why when I say I'm immune to tears, it's because they're used to not actually deal with the thing that is actually upsetting me. Now, had I carried on in a meeting, I'd be unprofessional.
It's another good point. It makes tremendous amount of sense. Just wasn't thinking of it that way because I don't think that way, which is why you're here to help enlighten the thinking. And I mean, it also helps me to try to be a good actor in the future. And not only, with women or around race, but around anything, to not use my own kind of emotions to steer, towards my point or to gain upper ground or to make someone else feel, because I'm prone to do that. I've done that. Yeah, and that's gross. That's a bad behavior. Make the face, what's the facial expression you give? Say there's a river. Get ready. There's a river of white lady tears going by. Look at it. The face. There it is. You turned your head at least. You're watching it go. All right. I
can watch all the people drown in it too.
Oh, wow. That seemed like an unnecessary punctuation.
I mean, that's the way I feel so far. Like, I'm just so tired of it. Like, that's the thing that I feel like a lot of white people don't understand. The level of exhaustion to live in this is why I'm always leaving this country. The level of exhaustion I have to deal with to be like a high functioning professional Black person.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, you talk to Black people who work at McDonald's, they have to go through the same nonsense. So it's like, just to exist in this country as a Black person, dealing with white nonsense. Like, there's that meme that I think I've sent you before. It's like days without white nonsense, 0. Yeah. Right? It's like, it is so, and that doesn't mean that I don't love white people, that I don't have dear, dear white friends. That doesn't mean that I am like, Black only. I can't exist in this country that way. But I have a lot of white friends that I have hard conversations with that I've known since middle school, where I'm like, you all, like, you get it, but you don't get it. It's like the level of exhaustion to deal with a constant onslaught of just either cluelessness, warranted or not, conscious or subconscious, maliciousness, which is oftentimes very explicit, the passive aggressive, the microaggressive, like the macro aggressive. Like,
how do you label or identify with, let's say you had a fine day where you didn't feel like anything happened to you as a result of race or gender. And, I'm sure you have plenty of days like that, right? A little bit.
There are days where you just ignore it.
Okay.
It just doesn't bother you.
So there's not maybe something overt or something. Let's say it happens all day, every day. Either way, the question I'm asking still remains. When you see it happen to someone else, that's a moment without rest as well. That's also exhausting. Yes. So even my point is, even if you were in the woods all day and you saw no humans and you had no screens, okay, that's the case study. And then you turn on the internet and you looked at your phone and you saw something happening to somebody else. that would, what's that called? It's like a secondary, but it's still.
Yeah, it's like secondhand smoke. It's still harmful because it triggers you to think about all the other times that something's similar. But like, let's, listen, you and I love nature, right? Let's even take it to nature. I'm walking in Central Park. It's like, oh, this is gorgeous. Oh, right, because you kicked out all the black people to build this park. I can't think about that. I won't even be able to enjoy the park. Oh, I love these birds. Oh, right, racist Audubon named them, and he wanted to uphold slavery, even if he was low-key black. That's the word on the curb. So like, it's even the names of birds are racist. So it's just like, I can't even, I can't, you have to just shut it off because, I go to the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, which is like one of my favorite places, but they're like fighting with, these rich developers who are trying to gentrify the community. And they want to create this building that's going to cast a shadow on half of the Botanic Garden in the park, which is just going to like harm the trees and the birds and everything else. And it's like, right, capitalism. This is what Bell Hooks tells us. White supremacy, anti-black racism, patriarchy, and capitalism. That's what this country is all about. And if we don't recognize that, then we're not recognizing what this country is all about. So like, you have to shut it off because it's like, in my lovely apartment that I adore, but it's like, I'm a black gentrifier. Like, I get it. And I just have to you kicked out all these black people. And some people would say, well, Chrissy, this neighborhood used to be, white. I was like, right. And when blacks tried to move in, that's when all the whites fled. So it's like, yeah, it is cyclic, but it's not like, it was like a welcoming, like, oh, we lived in community. It's like, no, too many of y'all came and that's how it becomes a black neighborhood. And then whites decide, oh, we want it. And so then y'all got to go. So, and then, here we are. So
that's all good. It's a really important reminder in terms of what we're watching, certainly for white folks, obviously, predominantly, play out in the country. It's an important perspective to remind us where we've kind of always been, which is always an awesome part of talking to you. Before I let you go, you mentioned living in New York City. You are a major player in New York City politics. Everybody wants to know what you think. They want your approval, your endorsement. You want them to write it. They want you to write about them, talk about them. They have to kiss the Chrissy ring, one of many. You give me this landscape right now. The mayoral race in New York City, I think, is one that the nation does kind of watch. It's very high profile. I'm not sure how much people care about it. Obviously, I do, but. What's the idea that Andrew Cuomo could be the mayor is pretty upsetting idea.
Yeah, it is. And considering he's running a coronation and not a campaign and won't answer any questions. Tonight is the first time he's actually talking to voters because we have a debate this evening, Wednesday, June 4th. But Andrew Cuomo has essentially just, said, I don't have to say anything. And so he's on I call it the less is more tour, because the more he talks, the more we realize it's like, I don't even know if you know about New York City. I think he knows a lot about New York State, but I don't think he knows about New York City. He hasn't lived in the city in like 3 decades or more, right? And there's a lot of nuance and minutia that actually wasn't part of, his gubernatorial stint. So I'm highly offended that he actually isn't campaigning. I'm highly disappointed that Black electeds are lining up behind him. He hasn't promised anything. He hasn't said anything. But a lot of people don't want to be the last ones to the party, especially with someone like, he's very similar to Donald Trump. He's very vindictive. My biggest fear of Andrew Cuomo is that he and Donald Trump have obviously known each other for about 40 years or so. They've had highs and lows, especially when Andrew Cuomo was governor and essentially was like, the voice of the nation in sanity, saying, hey, don't drink bleach, right? And he was giving his daily briefings and people really respected it, leaving the nursing home scandal aside. But my fear, honestly, is that he will use Tish James as the sort of focal point where he and Donald Trump will come together in their mutual hatred of this Black woman. And I think that's how they'll sort of team up to try and destroy her life. And so that worries me immensely. We have a lot of candidates, a lot of quantity, varying levels of quality.
It looks like nine candidates.
9 people, which, and some of them have not gotten matching funds, yet they're still on the stage. And I understand the small d democratic process, but like, we're less than a month away from election day is June 24th for the Democratic primary. Early voting starts June 10th. It's like, do some of these people need to be on the stage? I don't think so. Like, they're great public servants, but like, you haven't connected with voters. You're polling and, beneath 3%, beneath 2%. Why are you on the stage? I feel like we should just actually focus on the people who have at least shown that they're connecting with voters. Zohran Mamdani is a fantastic campaigner. I think he's kind of like a new generation. He gives AOC, Barack Obama vibes, really great at connecting with people. He's part of the DSA, which I don't support. I don't like the way they talk to or at Black people, the Democratic Socialists of America. I don't like the way they descend on Black communities and sort of tell Black people how they should be voting and what they should care about. I don't like their tone. I think some of their policies are fine. I don't like the tone of it. And so I don't support him because, and I've told him this to his face, I don't support him because I don't support them. I think a lot of his policies are interesting and innovative and new. I don't think that they work under a Republican president. I don't think they work necessarily under a more moderate to conservative Democratic governor. The mayoral budget is $115 billion, I think it is. But realistically, the wiggle room for what the mayor can actually spend himself or herself is like 3 to 5%. Everything else is spoken for. Everything else is accounted for. So you don't actually have a lot of money to like do a lot of things. And I'm sure he can move money around, but when you start getting into the nitty gritty of the details, I think it gets a little shaky for me. The comptrollers is like boring. You know, we have a former comptroller and Scott Stringer and a current comptroller, Brad Lander. Brad Lander, at least for me, when I've moderated mayoral debates, he talks a lot about moving around the money. Like if Trump penalizes us this way, we move the money here. If, you know, the governor could be Kathy Hochul in 2026 reelected, could not be, right? Elise Stefanik's looking around, Lawler's looking around. We had a 3-term Republican governor in George Pataki. Like New York, and don't forget, New York is the reason why Joe Biden didn't have unified government, you know, and so we have Republican lawmakers. You remember we lost those 4 seats. Yep. So we're a very purple state, and it is not a given that we will have a Democratic governor. And so if that's not the case, like, what does New York do? Because we rely so much on Albany for our fiscal vitality. What does that mean? And so we've got a lot of folks on that stage. And I think Andrew Cuomo is very happy about that because out of 9 people, he speaks a little. It's going to be a lot of people attacking him. But a lot of voters are like, I don't care if you're attacking Andrew Cuomo. What are you going to do for me? And I think, sadly, a lot of them are going to waste time saying, remember when Andrew Cuomo did this and remember that. And he has 11 women who, you know, accused him of sexual misconduct in some 11, ranging from sort of minor instances to what I would argue are much more major. So let's just say you take away 6, you still got 5. So it's problematic. But that doesn't seem to be resonating with voters at all.
That's crazy.
Sadly, the Me Too movement seems like some people care, some people really don't. Some people think a bully can fight a bully. Adrienne Adams is, you know, lovely, great public servant, but got in super late at the behest of her bestie, Tish James. And so I think had she gotten in months and months earlier, she could have connected with voters. But, you know, she just got matching funds last week. So we'll just start seeing her message in a more broad scale.
City council speaker, a Black woman.
Yeah. And so don't forget, the Speaker of City Council is elected speaker by their colleagues. So there are 51 city council members. So she's not citywide elected. Brad Lander is the comptroller citywide elected. Scott Stringer was citywide elected. Adrienne Adams is a city council member elected by her peers. And that's always a strategic move. And she's been able to wrangle a very diverse group of people because we have super progressives and more conservatives in the city council. But like that was a vote of 51 people, not of, you know, however many 3 million in the city.
So there's a big debate tonight. There's another one, June 12th. Primary day is June 24th.
And we have early voting.
Starts June 14th. And is there a Republican primary or a slate of candidates that were even...
Curtis Lee was the Republican nominee. He's the red beret guy that like walks around and like
can't win.
Yeah. Well, listen, don't say never because Eric Adams is running on an independent line, as is Andrew Cuomo. So even if Andrew Cuomo does not win the Democratic primary, he's still on the ballot in November. And so there's some people who hate Andrew Cuomo. There's some people who hate Eric Adams. It's going to be a low turnout election because people are dissatisfied with their choices. And so like, listen, it is a far-fetched idea, but like, let's be clear, the Republican nominee always gets about 30% no matter what, just because there's some people who are always going to vote for the Republican no matter what. There's a lawyer named Jim Lawson. I forgot his name. We interviewed him. He's a very well-respected lawyer. I don't think he knows much or anything about governance. And I mean, his temper runs hot. But, you know, some people might just vote for him because they don't like any of the other guys, right? So November is actually going to be a really fascinating race because Andrew Cuomo will definitely be in it. Eric Adams is definitely in it. Curtis Lewa is definitely in it. And the Democratic nominee, if it's Andrew Cuomo, he'll just be on 2 lines. But if it's not Andrew Cuomo, let's just say it's Zohran Mamdani. We're going to have a choice between someone who's super progressive and then everything in between all the way over to the right.
Oh, wow. So well explained. Really fascinating. Very important. How many people, millions of people now in New York?
On the books, we say like 8.5. I think it's more like 9. But the voting eligible population, I think, is about like 3 million. And we barely get 1 million showing up.
I always learn a lot. I really appreciate you stopping by and joining us. And
anytime.
Really soon. Do you want to say anything about Elon Musk or anybody? No.
Just,
you familiar with him?
The march of the incompetence is just wild. It's like
the baby billionaire, I call him. The baby billionaire.
I mean, it's like, so we're just fine with people being high on ketamine and making decisions about our government and like stealing all of our information. Okay.
It's we definitely lived forever, I feel like, in a political culture, at least, that if you found out someone did drugs, it could ruin their career, even like weed. But now we're like watching them be high, like watching them tripping, and we're okay with it. I think if you're the richest man in the world, you could probably kill a dog, and certain people be like, it's fine.
You can be high as a kite in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
I mean, I just always like, just so we know how not post-racial we are. It's like, just imagine non-white people doing any of these things.
Imagine a black person being like this the whole time, and like,
hey, imagine a black man having 3 wives and 5 children by 3 different women.
Yeah. Imagine a black woman's mother writing a horrible letter about his character, Pete Hegseth.
Imagine if you'd seen a black woman's naked body in her modeling pictures, and then she becomes first lady.
Well, I'd be fine with that. Wait, what?
But I mean, it's like, but it's just like, really, okay. But she's the most respectable. And it's like, listen, I'm not naked shaming. Sure, show your body, but like, let's be clear. Let's not call Michelle Obama Barack Obama's baby mama, and they've been married and have 2 kids, when I've seen the other first lady naked.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the same. But hey, I love playing the imagine if.
We could do this for another 2 hours.
I mean, imagine
if.
Imagine if Barack Obama sort of gave speeches that were just like word salads.
Imagine if Barack Obama or anyone ever tweeted that the last president died and was replaced by a droid.
Or on Memorial Day, you call people scum, and you just wake up with like hate-filled tweets. I'm like, aren't you a grandpa? Don't you want to spend time with your grandkids?
The best imagine if happened this morning. I feel like it was the most obvious imagine if ever. I read this morning that there's a new presidential portrait for Trump.
Scowl.
And but it's the first time ever since Truman that the presidential portrait didn't have the American flag in it. Imagine if.
Imagine if you got a $400 million plane from the Saudis.
Imagine if.
Do you know how long it would take us to dismantle this plane to make sure that there are no bugs in this plane? Like, imagine if it's just like you said at one point in time, they're corrupt and they abuse women and we can't be doing business with them, but the Clintons do, and they're terrible people. And then fast forward, imagine if your son has like billions of dollars of deals with them, and you just got a gift of a $400 million airplane. It's like, whatever. It's a gift.
Imagine if you threatened the financial underpinnings of every university because of pro-Palestinian protesters, and then imported super Nazis from South Africa who are openly and then put people in your cabinet who are super anti-Semitic and then have dinner with them. Imagine if you did that.
Imagine if you surround yourself with a nothing but anti-Semites, and it's like, I'm the greatest supporter of Judaism ever. It's like, oh wow, okay. I mean, just imagine, right? Just imagine.
So, this is a fun game.
Yeah, it takes you to some dark places. It
does, but there are places where there's a lot of truth, so I like to head there.
Imagine if you were bankrupt several times, but you're a great businessman, allegedly. Somehow. But hey, guess what? I wouldn't know because you never showed me your taxes.
Imagine
you didn't divest from any of your companies.
Imagine if you built your real estate business on debt, and then everybody said you're going to create, if you lead the country, you'll put us into debt, and then he did like already the first time like trillions of dollars, 8 I think, and now he's adding more to the debt because he's the king of debt. Imagine if that was what we all said would happen, and it did.
Hey, imagine if I asked you what your taxes are, and you say only suckers pay taxes.
Right.
But the country relies on people to pay taxes.
Imagine if you said veterans are suckers and losers, and you were Barack Obama.
Hey, listen, I prefer not to get shot. So
I prefer. I don't
who
think
you, John McCain, war hero.
If you get caught, it's crazy. Yeah.
So
well, we're fucked. I appreciate.
Hey, imagine if you were president and you said you don't like to read.
That's
you don't read your daily briefings.
Yep. Imagine if
I don't need to read. You know why, Pete? Because I'm smarter than you, and I just know things. I just know it intrinsically.
Well, I mean, some people apparently are born far better. Imagine if you believe that people were born into a caste system.
Yeah. By the size of their brain skull.
Yeah. Imagine if you openly were.
Well, some people have better genes than others. According to him. That is, some people have good genes.
I mean, I agree with that in terms of from the outside. I look around at a lot of people and I go, oh dear, what happened? Then I look at other people. I'm like, oh, look at the symmetry in that. Look at your face, for example.
Oh, I have a totally lopsided face. I have a lopsided body. It's crazy.
Really?
Oh yeah. I'll send you a close-up picture. My face is like, and after my car accident, they like had to pull up my forehead. It's even more asymmetric. I'm like a fancy Picasso.
Yeah, well.
Oh, yes, on the side.
Yeah.
This is just so we don't end on a note.
Picasso.
Are you watching Mobland?
No.
What made me think of it is Helen Mirren, who's a brilliant actress and also gorgeous, is so good in this show. She's so ugly from the inside. It comes out on the outside. That's how good she is. She looks like a horrible witch of a woman only because she's like corroded on the inside. And Pierce Brosnan, obviously.
Wow, I don't even know anything about this.
Oh,
but I love
Tom Hardy. Amazing.
Love
amazing.
Me from Tom Hardy.
But Pierce Brosnan, oh my.
But I think it's pretty common. Yeah, he's very, very handsome. I think it's pretty common for beautiful people to be horrible people. Yeah,
I don't know, because it's like, for me,
I actually assume it.
No, but I mean, for me, I think I kind of have like goggles in the sense that if you're a good person, you look more attractive to me, and if you're not, then you're not.
We're talking about two different things. I take like 4 seconds to decide if you're a good person or not. So you're talking about
I'm swift on the draw.
Yeah, I'm a very jujudgmental.
And I am very rarely am wrong. And I get really, really down on myself when I am wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's like my antenna is usually tuned. It's high tuned.
We're supposed to talk badly to ourselves, but your chatter is only like that when you were wrong about judging someone.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, I err on the side. It's like, Chrissy, you were doing your best. Even when I mess up, I'm like, hey girl, you were doing your best.
Yeah.
Black woman in this world. Like, go ahead. Like, but when I
say the same thing to make me feel better,
you can do whatever.
I say, Chrissy, you're doing your best. You're a black woman in this world. And I look in the mirror,
that's your mantra in the morning. You look at yourself like, Chrissy.
Dear Chrissy. It sets me up for an amazing day, usually, though.
Listen, I have an attitude of gratitude, and the world is on fire, but at the same time, the world is made up of tiny, tiny, tiny little bricks and little decisions by individuals. And I think that there are more really, really good people than bad people in this world. And like, we're in a real regressive moment, but it's a moment. And we just, like, for those of us who aren't in the middle of the storm, we have to stay focused, and we have to stay organized, and we have to stay in communication with one another so we can actually help other people who are in the midst of it, you know? And it's like, and be as generous of spirit and intellect as we can. And then we get out of it. But like, we can't all be like, you know, chickens without a head. Then that's how we sort of stay in this frenzy.
Yeah. Great reminder, great point, and great place to end. Thank you so much. As always, I'm ending the live stream. Don't go.